after-action report on my time with Lori Chapman Long Fritz and a few other people down at the National Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington, Texas, this past weekend for their grand opening. Spectacular. First, I will say that it's an amazingly beautiful and impressive building and display for 3,500 plus members who've received the Medal of Honor, minus one person, which is the topic of this conversation. So I went down there to support Lori and to help her educate people on the truth about what happened that day on March 4th, 2002, on Tackar Mountain in Afghanistan during Operation Anaconda. That mission is affectionately known as Roberts Ridge, and as a tribute, I guess, to Neil Roberts, who also died on that mountain, fighting valiantly after falling out of the helicopter during their first attempt to land on the mountain. I'm not going to go into details about what happened that day, other than to say that John Chapman was a hero. He fought, should have earned 2 Medal of Honors. He fought valiantly with SEAL Team 6. He led the charge up the mountain. Britt Slabinski and the rest of the team behind him. He solo missioned itself. Basically, the first bunker did it all by himself, and then began to assault the second bunker, and then was shot and rendered motionless, unconscious. Some people say he was doing a tactical pause. I've heard different accounts. I don't really know. What I do know is that he wasn't dead. And Britt Slabinski lied multiple times throughout the last 20 plus years, saying that he checked John and checked it and to see if he was breathing and didn't see his laser moving, his strobe moving. Bunch of crap. He, instead of recovering John and Neil, he took the remaining team down off the bunker where they were at because of quote unquote untenable conditions, and went down to the side of the mountain for safety. He then called in airstrikes after telling the AC-130 gunship. If you haven't seen Rob Harrison, recently a new whistleblower that came out from the Air Force who was the intel guy on the AC-130 gunship. You can go to Seth Hetna's After Action report on YouTube and watch that. It's a brilliant commentary on what actually happened that day as an eyewitness from the eye in the sky. I also want to point out that the level of cowardice that Britt Slabinski showed tells me that he doesn't deserve his Medal of Honor. And I'll go into more detail with that shortly. But watch Rob Harrison's interview. After Britt left him on the mountain, he went on the air and called in to the AC-130 gunship that there were possible KIAs, not probable, not definite, possible. And then instructed them to fire 105 millimeter rounds. There was supposed to be a different ordinance, but there was a malfunction, which is actually what saved John's life, I believe, because that ordinance was more of a proximity rounds that would explode above the target, and basically a bunch of 22 caliber BBs would go flying everywhere and destroy everything in its sight. So the fact that the 105s were deployed actually probably saved John's life. After the bombing, John woke up and started to fight for another 80 minutes and killed a bunch of more enemy fighters, even went hand to hand, went to his last round until he finally was ultimately killed with the 16 bullet wounds. And while he was fighting for those 80 minutes was also the time when the QRF, the Rangers, were coming in to rescue everybody. There were 23, I believe, on that Huey, and 18 lived. And that's a large part due to what John did that day. So after the incident, the Navy SEALs basically minimized John, gave him enough credit to earn a Silver Star based on their testimony, their statements, but not enough to get any real recognition. While Britt Slabinski was honored as doing, being the one that charged, being the one that went up the mountain, being the one that assaulted the bunker, all of that. That's what, for 15 years or so, not quite 15, 13 years probably, that was the narrative until An ISR feed, which is a predator drone that was flying overhead, had an ISR feed on that whole thing. And everybody knew that existed. But the ability to identify who was who on the ground did not at the time. And had the SIGINT technology not been made available to match, basically, they took the signals from the strobes from each person on the ground and married it to a signal that was identifiable on each person. And they were able to see who was who. And it was at that point they realized that it was actually John Chapman that did everything. So, yeah, for a long time they lied. And Britt Slabinski, SEAL Team 6 and Naval Special Warfare, did a hell of a job trying to block the Air Force's attempt to upgrade John's Air Force Cross to the Medal of Honor once they found out what actually happened that day. Britt Slabinski was then, once they found out the Air Force was putting him in, Britt Slabinski was put in for the Medal of Honor, and it was denied 3, and I've also heard 4 times by the DoD. The Air Force tried hard to get John's Medal of Honor through, but NSW, SEAL Team 6, and Britt Slabinski actively blocked that effort. They came up with counter narratives. They put out propaganda videos. They did everything they could to dispel the truth, which was what John did that day, and attribute it to some other phenomenon. Ultimately, a deal was brokered between the Air Force and the Navy, basically saying, you let our guy get his, we'll let your guy get yours. And that's kind of what they did. Except the only caveat was Britt Slabinski had to go first, and which is fucked up. Now, fast forward to the Medal of Honor Museum grand opening. Prior to the grand opening, the Chapman family was told that there would be a large exhibit for John Chapman. It wasn't until January or early February that they found out that that's not happening, and that Britt Slabinski, who is a member of the board and is soon to be named the president and CEO of the board of the museum, and is also the president of the Medal of Honor Society, and his wife works for the museum as a paid employee. And if he gets the CEO position, that's a paid $300,000 plus position. So if he gets that, then everybody in the Slabinski's family is making a lot of money on top of getting all the accolades and fame from having basically a bedroom size display. I went down there to support Lori because I knew that this is what was going to happen. And sadly, it did. We had hoped that there would be enough pressure moving forward because we got Congresswoman Anna Polina Luna involved. Her husband's a combat controller and she's an Air Force veteran too. The goal was to get pressure on them so that they would change their position, maybe have a little bit of logic and a little humility and some compassion. Instead, they doubled down and they showed their hubris and their cockiness, because there are multiple Navy SEALs on the board, including the current president and CEO. And they doubled down and they made this thing so grotesquely huge. I had put out some videos. I did lives from inside the museum showing that, John got a picture and a small, smaller than a computer screen video, just a couple minutes long, which had only a few seconds of the actual battle from the ISR feed, and then just a bunch of gobbledygook words. And then they made it look like they gave him an awards section 2 with like patches and medals and artifacts, but they didn't belong to John. But they tied it together as if it was John's to make it look like it was more than what it was. But John only got a picture and some gobbledygook words on a video with no audio, by the way. You couldn't hear anything. Then you go over 50 feet away, 75 feet away from there, and you go to Slabinski's, and he's got, it's grotesque, the size of his display. And no mention of Chapman anywhere, no mention of what John did that day. If you weren't aware of what happened, you would never know that John Chapman and Britt Slabinski were even on the same mountain at the same time in the same battle. So it was very, first of all, it was not surprising. I expected this. I've been investigating the SEALs for a long time as it relates to the cover up and criminality in their organization that started with, I call John Chapman the original sin. I know there was stuff that happened during earlier times, but since the GWAT was the most active the SEALs had ever been. This is kind of the beginning of the true corruption within the brand known as the Navy SEALs. So I've been doing this a long time, 6 years, and have uncovered a lot. I've been out in public, very public on what I have to say about certain individuals that are well known in the community. And I've gotten whistleblowers to come forward. I've helped organize media coverage, print and news. There was a big story out in CBS Morning News on the 25th, on Tuesday, that if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, telling the truth about what happened that day and how the museum screwed over John, again, 23 years later. Just keeping that wound, just every time there's a scab and it looks like it's healing, they rip it off again. And it's as if they're doing it on purpose. So it's disappointing and it's disheartening. And I feel horrible for Lori. And I feel horrible for John's wife and kids. You know, they shouldn't have to deal with this. And I know Lori is the spokesperson for the family. She's the one that's leading the charge. She's the most vocal and visible. But I know it's impacting everybody, including John's mom and his siblings. It's horrible. So what does all this mean? It means that on a public space, everybody now knows what lengths and depths the Navy SEALs will go to in order to maintain the lie and keep the truth from being known, at least admitting on their side what the truth is. And I'll answer some questions here in a second. But it doesn't, what it's doing is it's empowering people. People are starting to wake up, kind of like with, what was going on with COVID and the vaccines and the Wuhan lab and the lab leak and the bird avian transmission or reptiles, whatever the fuck they were saying. Everything sort of comes out after time. Now, the goal is to keep our foot on the gas, to make sure that we do not relent, to make sure that when my documentary comes out on SEAL corruption, that gets where it needs to go, and that it exposes things that it needs to expose. That Joe Price, my high school friend who was murdered by his own team on December 22nd, 2012 as the commander of SEAL Team 4, that his quote unquote suicide gets reinvestigated with the new evidence I've uncovered, proving that he was murdered. There's a lot of criminality. It's almost like the mafia. It's very much organized that way too, and the way they do things and how they leverage things and how they keep people under their thumb and how they use foundations like the Navy SEAL Foundation and the National Medal of Honor Museum and other types of foundations to wash money, to enrich themselves, to create opportunities that they don't deserve, and to award medals to cover up fuck ups. The Navy is renowned, the Navy SEALs are renowned for failing up, for fucking up a mission, getting promoted, and getting awarded. That's how they keep the lies covered. That's how they make Mark Luttrell look like a hero, Chris Kyle look like a hero. It's embarrassing, but they don't care. And that's really the best part of all this is they just don't care. They're just like a politician who will say in 1990 that they're pro-abortion, and then in the year 2002 they're staunch abortion activists. It's everybody flip-flops in that world, and the Navy SEALs are no different. They've created a world where they can live in both dimensions and not be held accountable at all. Well, that time's coming to an end, and we now have a team being assembled of whistleblowers and people who have direct information and evidence and receipts on everything that I've been investigating for the last 6 years. People are finally coming forward. Having been the catalyst for most of this, I've been the most prominent Navy SEAL critic and vocal Navy SEAL critic out there. Not because I hate the Navy SEALs, but because I know that if you are not speaking out, you are allowing it to happen. And I have a lot of SEALs coming to me and making sure that they know that they support me. And it's at the right time, they're going to come forward. They say, I'm urging every Navy SEAL, if you are a moral person with integrity and you believe in the truth and you believe in righteousness, that you should come forward and reach out to me. We need to get everyone who is righteous and who is just and who has integrity to come forward so we can finally end the corruption, finally clean up the Navy SEAL community, finally give some integrity back to what should be a silent, professional, elite fighting unit. So that's really what this is all about for me. And John Chapman's story is the umbrella over all of it. It's a 23-year-long conspiracy to destroy John Chapman's legacy. And within that conspiracy became a pattern and a way that they would do things. They learned through the John Chapman 23-year lie how to craft the perfect narrative and never have to apologize for their failures and for their lies and for their corruption and for crimes, war crimes. So that's kind of where this is headed. This is important that we stay active. Anybody who has any information can on Job can go to Who Killed Job Price, JOBPRICE.com, whokilledjobprice.com. And there's a place where you can email our investigative team into anything that you might have. You can email me directly at mattkubler@protonmail.com, MATTCUBBLER@protonmail.com. It's important that we get people out now. This is the time. We're not going to be in a better position than we are today to out these motherfuckers, to get justice, to give John Chapman his time in the sun that he deserves, to get Job Price's integrity and name back. He did not kill himself. He didn't choose the coward's way out. He was murdered by his own guys. We need to fix these problems. We need to make sure that the Marks Luttrells and the Jaccos and the Chris Kyles and the Sean Ryans and the Rob O'Neills, that they all get held accountable for their lies. Let me see if I can answer some questions here. All right. Any updates on the Eastern Shore drug running? That's still, no, I can't give you any updates on that. What is my documentary going to be called? We are still working on that, but the brand is the working title. 357 Sig Beats, 9mm. Slabby Boy is a crap human being, 1,000,000%. Gone one. Do you think Rob O'Neill is telling a tall tale to become famous for false action? Absolutely. Red was the one who hit bin Laden first, and then there were multiple guys that came in and blew holes in him, and Rob famously canoed him. But Rob wasn't the first one to shoot him. Rob's just the one that's taking the credit, and he talks now just on Rob real quick. He's a piece of shit because he can't handle the fact that, and I'm going to put together a piece at some point in time, editing all the spots where Rob O'Neill engaged and wanted to engage. He did 3 2-hour-plus interviews with me. Rob's not a victim when it comes to Matt Kubler. Rob is an aggressor. Rob called my wife a fat cow or an ugly fat, I forget what he called it, ugly and fat. My wife's a smoke show. He's like, thinks I'm not sure if Matt Kubler's law enforcement. I did it for 30 years. You can Google me. There's a lot of information out there. So Rob is just a guy that's salty because he got caught in a lie. And he knows it. That's okay. I don't give a fuck about Rob O'Neill. I don't even care that he didn't kill bin Laden. I just needed to use that information and that platform to propel Job Price's story forward. That's all it was. No hard feelings, Rob. Red was 15T from the Army. I don't know what a 15T is. Plot twist. If you just go to my page that we're on right now, Gone One, you'll see a bunch of stuff on Job Price. Lots of podcasts. Supra, great to see you going live, Matt. I signed the petition yesterday. Keep crushing it. In the notes or the description, or I don't know, I'm not a big YouTube guy, but there is a petition I started yesterday on change.org to get to request Congress begin looking into Britt Slabinski's Medal of Honor in order to rescind it. Anna Polina Luna is very much in favor of this. Now we just got to get enough people behind it in order to get people to force change. You know, there's going to be 300 different strategies we use moving forward. Some individually, some in conjunction with other things. You know, the goal here is to overwhelm the system, the media system, the social media system, to get change activated. We have enough people talking about this. They won't be able to shut us all up. I'm the battering ram. I'm the blowtorch. I'm the JDAM. I'm the Moab. That's my job, is to be the shock and awe. There are a lot of people behind the scenes doing more strategic stuff than me. because their interest is in certain specific topics. Mine is about Job, but ultimately it all leads back to Job. The same people that were involved in Robert's Ridge were involved in Job's murder, in covering it up at least. And they were involved in Staff Sergeant Melgar's death in Mali by the SEAL Team 6 guys in the Marine Raider. It's all connected. Every piece of this is connected, and it all leads back to Job, in my mind. And that's the important part of this. It's a difficult place to be for me, because I'm not a big fan of putting myself out there and risking my safety and my family's safety, but we're too far past that point now to turn around and quit. So for me, this is going till the wheels fall off. There's guys out there doing a lot of great work for us. I'm not an influencer. I don't have a big channel. This is probably the first live I've done in more than a year, probably. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Matt Kubler. If you want to follow me on Facebook, it's MC Kubler. I need people to get involved. Job died because he witnessed something gone one. He found out that ASOP money was missing. He approached the guy that he believes took it 2 days before he died. And 2 days later, Job's dead with a bullet in his head. And the forensic evidence from multiple forensic experts independently, who have no idea the others exist, all point to the same conclusions as to why it was murdered and how his body and crime scene was tampered with in order to create the scene as it was depicted by the NCIS and his team. So mostly had to do with the missing money, but there was also some other underlying stuff that happened with a SEAL Team 2 deployment, right, which is who Job's team, SEAL Team 4, relieved. Lots of underlying stuff. There was an ambush involved as a result of what happened with Team 2 that killed Kevin Ebert. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why Job died. But Booker killed Shannon Fannin. I don't know that one. I'll have to look that one up. I'm not the expert on every single name, guys. I can talk about certain things in depth, Job being one of them, John Chapman being one of them. Matt Moab Kubler. Yeah, I just don't care anymore, guys. I'm past the point of worrying about whether or not I offend anybody. I have all the proof about Job's case. I no longer need to scream from the mountaintops, believe me, Job was murdered. I have the evidence. And in any court of law, it would be proven so. So I just got to get the Navy to reopen this case. And it's going to take John Chapman's story to break open the dam in order for all of these other cases to become solvable and for Job's case to get reversed. And so John Chapman's case, what happened to John, as horrible as it was, is going to be the reason why the change happens within the special operations community. Because I know it's not just the Navy SEALs, but they're the ones that do it the best. They're the most profitable from their corruption. So they're the ones that everybody looks at, and rightfully so. I am excited to move forward with this. I know we have a lot of things going on. I got Rob Harrison's going to be going on multiple podcasts, Anti-Hero, Green Beret Chronicles, Valhalla VFT, hopefully Team House, Jeffrey Prather's podcast. Hopefully Veteran Biker is going to get him on. So we have a lot of people coming out, and having Rob Harrison come forward as the person who was in the AC-130 watching the feed, watching the battle unfold. He was there when the rounds were deployed onto the mountain. He was there following all of it as the intel guy. So he is the first person outside of Britt Slabinski to talk publicly about what happened that day, because John can't talk because he died. So having Rob Harrison out there is going to be vital for our success, because he gives a level of credibility to everything that we've been saying for years as a firsthand account. So, and there will be more coming out, many more on many different topics. And again, this is to clean up a massive shit show that has been going on for 20 plus years. GWAT helped the military industrial complex make billions of dollars, but it also helped the United States Navy SEALs make a shit ton of fucking money too. They are all complicit. Warrior class, I'm sure you have huge problems making the right people talk about this case, brother. Yes, I do. But I get contacted daily by SEALs. And some have a lot of dirt, but it's not time for them to come out yet. And that's great, as long as they're going to come out. And there's going to be a terminal point for this, right? There's going to be a time when you either put up or shut up, and that's coming soon, but it's not there yet. So I'm going to give them the grace and the time to mature their information and be ready to jump when it's time. And I'm praying that they do. I'm praying that all these guys that are coming to me off the record are willing to come on the record when the time is right. And that time is going to be coming soon, because there's going to be so much happening that if they don't get on the train at the beginning, I'm not going to let them on the train later. And then they're just going to become part of the collateral damage that comes from this. GBRS, don't know enough about it. I know there's a lot of talk about DJ Shipley Jr. and all that. I don't give a fuck about him. 7 Mississippis. I just don't. I know I've heard some stuff about DJ's time in the teams, and what they do now at GBRS isn't necessarily something I'd be proud of. But again, it's really small potatoes comparatively to what's been going on with the teams. And if DJ's name comes up in a investigation that is more high profile, then add him to the list. But as of right now, I don't have anything truly too earth-shattering on him or GBRS. So not bad for a live or impromptu live. Ooh, back here, I gotta get this, guys. I gotta show you this fucking badass. So I got contacted by a guy who makes action figures, of all things. And one of the things that people want to do is try to honor John Chapman. So they're going to make an action figure about John. So in this box, so this is the outside of the box. This is Mark Lee's. I requested Mark's, and information about that will be forthcoming. They have his last letter home, typed out that he wrote to his family. There's a certificate of authenticity that comes with it. You get, I don't want any of this to fall out, but all of this stuff that comes with the actual action figure. And then inside is his kit. Mark, it looks just like him. It's uncanny. So yeah, it's pretty badass. There's gonna be one made of John Chapman. So I connected. I'm trying to find the name of the. His name's Sully. And I'll put that in the notes. If you go to www.Mike Sierra Echo Golf Romeo Uniform, msegru.com. That's where you'll find the information on these. They've been doing it for a long time. I'd never heard of them. I think it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I'm impressed with the level of quality. And this one was made 9 years ago. And according to Sully, they've perfected it even more. So pretty badass. And it's pretty cool they're going to make one for John. And fuck Britt Slabinski. He doesn't deserve anything. If anything, he deserves a Barbie doll because he's such a pussy. Like the one with maybe Barbie and Ken, like has no penis or vagina, no nothing. He's just a eunuch. It's just me having a little fun with you, Britt. Don't get all salty. So yeah, that's it. Oh, shout out to Green Beret podcast last night. Jay Dorius is a good dude, but he might have been on the show a bunch of times. He's awesome. And last night he put out a rage piece calling out all the influencers, Jocko, everybody, on how they stay silent when the shit's tough, like the Britt Slabinski talk. Nobody wants to talk about that because he's a Medal of Honor recipient, right? Except it's a fraud. And by the way, if you just research, watch the video, and I'll end with this. Watch the video of what happened on that mountain. Watch the ISR feed, and then read Britt Slabinski's Medal of Honor citation, and not a single fucking thing on there did he actually do. Nothing. If anything, he stole all of John's stuff. And that's the part that is going to be their death nail, is that there's video evidence, and there's no video evidence or proof of anything that Britt Slabinski did. And there is video of it. It exists. It will show that he did nothing. Zero. And that's the best part, is that there's nothing Britt Slabinski can do to prove what he did. And the fact that the 3 SEALs who wrote John Chapman's statements for John Chapman's Air Force Cross refused to sign the same statements, not new statements, not amended statements, just the exact same statements, sign them for John's Medal of Honor packet. They refused to do that. So when they say it's the first Medal of Honor solely as a result of video evidence, that is true, but it's only because the witnesses, the SEAL team guys that left him to die on the mountain, that they wrote in 2004 or whenever it was he got the Air Force Cross, refused to sign the same statements. So it was left to only have the video evidence, but it's not like nobody witnessed it. Trust me, people witnessed it. They just didn't want to say anything because they're pussies too. So, yes, Jill, he did. He left a brother on the mountain. Long live the brotherhood is what they say, those SEALs, but Joe Price didn't have any brotherhood. They didn't care about him. They left him to die in his bunk after they murdered him. John Chapman got left to die. So many guys died from the brotherhood with a lack of brotherhood. The brotherhood is only for the ones that are keeping quiet. It's only for the ones that are profiting. It's only for the ones who are out front spewing propaganda in order to further the growth of the brand. Jocko, dirt. Sean Ryan, dirt. Eddie Gallagher, dirt. Mark Luttrell, dirt. They're all dirt. They're nothing. They're cancerous, incestuous leeches who feed off each other and help each other grow. That's for damn sure. But they don't represent America. They don't represent the best of our brave fighting force. They're the worst. The very worst. All right, I'll leave it on that. Thanks, everybody. God bless.